Greetings, I'm Danielle Gagne from Commercial UAV News, and we are here today to talk to Christopher Todd, Executive Director of the Airborne International Response Team, or AIRT for short, about the launch of the second edition AIRT DRONERESPONDERS Spring 2020 Public Safety UAS Survey. Hi, Chris. How's it going?
Hey, Danielle, how are you?
Doing good. So before we talk about the survey, how have things been going since the pandemic from your
Well,
experience?
big question. Well, great to see you again, and thank you for having me, inviting me to join you today. Things have been going really well, all things considered. AIRT and the Drone Responders program started 2020 off with quite a bit of momentum, but external factors have obviously weighed in upon all of us. If you think about it, it's been a pretty epic year. We kicked off the year with our first presidential impeachment this century, headed straight into the COVID-19 pandemic, the worst global pandemic in over 100 years, which is dramatically impacting all facets of life and commerce around the globe. And now we're witnessing some of the worst civil unrest we've seen in decades here in the US. So I can't remember a year in which the US has actually faced this much turmoil, but from both internal and external pressures. But I think through it all, AIRT and Drone Responders has remained committed to supporting our core missions of drones for good and supporting the use of UAS by public safety agencies and emergency service organizations around the world.
That's really great to hear. So in comparison to last fall's survey that you did in 2019, what are you hoping to learn from this year's spring survey? And did some of that come out of your first survey as well as some of these current events that you're experiencing?
Yeah, absolutely. Last fall, I think we really wanted to establish baselines in the public safety sector. We wanted to take a look at how long the public safety drone programs have been operational at each agency, how many certified remote pilots they had, what aircraft they were operating, which payloads they found valuable, how they're training their personnel, and what some of their greatest challenges are. We also started exploring the impact of Chinese small unmanned aircraft systems technology in the public safety sector, an issue that's now somewhat of a hot button issue inside the Beltway. As happenstance would have it, when we released our report last fall, it was the same week the American Drone Security Act was proposed by a bipartisan group of senators. This year, we're looking to expand the baseline data. There are certain metrics we're continuing to track and compare with data from last fall: program size, budgets, aircraft, number of missions flown. And some of the new areas we're looking at include the counter UAS technology, airspace authorizations, operational waivers, of course, the impact of COVID-19, and the impact of grant funding on public safety UAS programs. We're also asking our constituents what the best way is to maintain communications with public safety and emergency management stakeholders in this new world of social and physical distancing with no large group events.
Fantastic. So judging by what you were able to accomplish with the last survey, how are you hoping to apply these learnings from this current survey to future initiatives by AIRT and drone responders, especially in regards to how we have to communicate with social distancing?
Sure. Well, I think, when you look at a survey, you want quality data and you also want quantity of sample to make sure that you've got statistically valid data. Last year, we had about 275 responses by the time we closed down the survey, which I felt very comfortable with. That was a great sample size. I'm pleased to tell you that this year, within the first 36 hours of launching the survey, we crushed that number. So I'm feeling really good about the quality of the data we have as well as the quantity. And as far as what we're looking to apply, the way the survey was constructed allows us to really dial in on some very specific data points. Instead of just getting a read on how the public safety and sector as a whole views a specific issue, we now have increased our ability to drill down and get very specific perspectives on each data point. We can now explore how smaller municipal fire department UAS programs view a specific topic versus how a large state law enforcement agency might view the same topic. And that research becomes incredibly valuable and will help us deliver more targeted content and focused support to our various constituents across the public safety and emergency services drone sector. We will also have a better understanding on what conversations need to be taking place during the fall conference event series with many partners such as Commercial UAV Expo.
Fantastic. And as we've talked about there, it's going to be a really tough year in 2020. and especially challenging for public safety drone programs due to the COVID-19 and that possible U.S. congressional legislation. Can you talk a little bit about how those challenges are already being felt by public safety?
Sure. There's no doubt that COVID-19 is having an impact on all of us, on basically every facet of life, as we kind of talked about. And this includes the public safety UAS sector. Our preliminary data shows that there is a substantial impact, and some programs are certainly feeling the effect. However, the picture we're seeing is not quite as bleak as we are, as our worst fears, I should say. There's an impact out there, but it's manageable. And about half of all public safety agencies surveyed are still saying they're intending to purchase new drones before the end of 2020, which for me, that's a really good sign for the drone manufacturers and the solution providers. There's still going to be business out there. We're still seeing public safety programs that are either starting up or looking to build their program. It just might not be quite as robust as we hoped for right when the year started.
But that's still a very positive outlook for all things considered. Um, So, how can the survey potentially help public safety drone programs with these upcoming and current challenges? Do you think
Sure. I think the data is going to help everyone make smarter decisions across the board. It will help drone manufacturers and solution providers better understand the public safety UAS landscape. It'll help departments and agencies at every level better understand their own drone program and where it fits into the bigger industry picture, and as well as some of the challenges that many of these programs are facing as they bootstrap their way into existence. I think ultimately all politics is local, so it's going to be up to each specific government body to either decide to embrace or choose to hold off on embracing drone technology. Change does not always happen as quickly as we would like, but by arming ourselves with the data from the survey, I think we'll all be able to make better informed decisions and ultimately help the unmanned systems industry thrive and move forward.
Do you think data like this that you're collecting can perhaps even help, small or municipal emergency response personnel make that argument that it's worth investing in a time like this into drone programs rather than make cuts?
Absolutely, I do. In fact, we kind of see in public safety, it's a lot like other industries, but if one agency or one department has a shiny new object and they're having a lot of fun with it or saving lives with it, that next department or agency a couple towns over wants to have that same shiny new object. So I think the data will help make the case of why it's valuable to invest in the technology, what the use cases are. And it'll kind of, again, by helping us expand off that baseline from last year, we'll be able to really provide some insights, I think, that can help these program managers justify the cost investment and why they should have their budget preserved in this current COVID-19 environment.
As you mentioned in your press release, Drone Responders is anticipating that drone programs will be impacted by budget cuts related to COVID-19. What are some ways that Drone Responders is looking to bring the public safety community together and keep them informed over the course of the year in light of constrained budgets?
Yeah, great question. I think we're all kind of challenged by that dilemma right now. But I think this is a great example of the type of digital events that we're going to be focusing on. Not sure if you noticed this, but both AIRT and Drone Responders went largely radio silent for about 60 days during the heart of the flatten the curve phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. And that was by design. A lot of major US advertisers also went dark. I'm kind of a huge fanatic about branding and brand messaging and wanting that messaging to be a positive experience. And there was so much dread and despair in the national psyche with COVID-19. And we're kind of seeing that now again with the civil unrest. But through all that uncertainty, I think it was appropriate for us to be somewhat quiet, but now's the time to really get back out there and start pushing forward. And we're going to do that. So we're opening up business as usual at AIRT and Drone Responders. We're going to move past this period of confusion. And as we start to open up the nation and revitalize the economy, we'll be out in front leading the next phase of the drone adoption by public safety agencies. And to do that, we're expanding our electronic footprint across the digital landscape. This week, we launched our new AIRT podcast series featuring Series A, Taming Disaster, Drones for Good, which I will be hosting. The intention of this series is to really highlight leaders from the emergency management, disaster response, and humanitarian aid sector who are using drones for good around the world. Our first episode featured Charles Werner, Director of Drone Responders, which was a great way to kick off the series and shake off the cobwebs from my old radio days back in college. David Merrick from Florida State University, and who serves as the UAS Air Operations Coordinator for the Florida Department of Emergency Management, will be joining me on our next episode. And coming up on June 8th, we'll premiere Series B in the podcast series titled Drone Responders UAS for Public Safety and Fire Rescue, hosted by Charles Werner. And Chief Werner is going to be bringing in guests from around the public safety UAS sector to discuss the latest emerging topics and use cases. So we're all very excited about the new podcast series, which I think will be a great addition to the sector. I also have to thank Aeros, part of GE Aviation, First Eyes, and Pix4D for the incredible support they're providing in helping us to launch this new podcast series. And finally, I think as we look at pushing further into the year and through this new digital landscape, we'll be continuing to build on our established relationships with Commercial UAV Expo, AUVSI, the Energy Drone and Robotics Coalition, and our other key partners to deliver virtual events under the AIRT and Drone Responders brands during that time period. And I think in the coming weeks, we'll have some more announcements on that real soon. Suffice to say, we're going to get creative and we're going to be pushing the envelope on how digital content surrounding the UAS public safety sector is getting delivered.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing more from you and how you can reach us digitally.
Thank you.
So for our final question, who can take part in the survey? How long do you intend to keep the survey running? And if they do want to take part, how would they do so?
Sure. Well, we invite anybody who is involved in a public safety drone program or an emergency management drone program to take part in the survey. We want to hear from you. We want to better understand how you are basically using the technology and what kind of things you're experiencing with UAS. To take part in the survey, just visit us online at survey.droneresponders.org. Again, that's survey.droneresponders.org. We intend on having the survey open through about June 15th. Perhaps, we'll close it down a little bit earlier if the responses keep coming in like this, but we want to give everyone a chance to get there and participate and provide some valuable insight and input. And one of the other great things I should add about the survey is there is an area for people just to provide comments. And some of the comments and wisdom we're seeing coming in is really quite valuable and very interesting. So we'll have to incorporate that into some of our research findings.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Danielle, thanks again for inviting me to join you. It's always great speaking with you.
Always great speaking with you as well.